Hi, I'm Chef Michael, and it's nice to be with you today. I'm in the Lifestyle Medicine Culinary Kitchens, and today we're making cranberry chocolate chip oatmeal cookies. So I have some of my ingredients put together from the recipe. Here we have my whole wheat flour and rolled oats, plain rolled oats. Do not use instant oats for this recipe. They tend to be a little bit mushier in a cookie. This gives it a little bit of texture. You can use a gluten-free flour in this. You could also use probably almond meal if you choose to do that. Over here, I've got my spices and leavening ingredients. That would be the baking soda and the baking powder. That's going to help with the cookie rising, lighter crumb texture. I've also got salt in there. And here I have my fat. It says we're not using butter. We're using olive oil for this cookie. So that's going to give it a nice moist texture. What's also going to help that moistness in the cookie is unsweetened applesauce, which is still going to add a little bit of sweetening to the cookie. I have ground flaxseed, I have maple syrup, and I've got my vanilla mixed in with that. Here I have my dark chocolate chips and cranberries. When you're out shopping, with dried fruits, try to look at things with little or no sugar. So these have a little bit of sugar in them. It's okay, but we don't want a ton of sugar for this recipe. So beginning, I'm going to take my olive oil, going to mix it with my vanilla and my maple syrup. And then I'm going to open my applesauce and we'll put that right in with the other wet ingredients. Lastly, I'm going to add my flaxseed. And again, this is ground flaxseed. And what we want to do is kind of let this sit for a minute or two before we mix it with the dry ingredients. And what that does, it just moistens the flaxseed and helps it make a better tasting and better texture cookie. So we're going to mix that up nice and thoroughly. If you didn't want to use maple syrup, you could probably use honey. I think that would be another sweetener that would work with this. What I'm trying to do is kind of just mix the oil in with the maple syrup. Over here, I've got my dry ingredients and my spices and flavorings and my baking soda, baking powder. And I'm going to mix those together just a little bit before I add the wet ingredients. And that's just going to distribute everything so that you don't get a big lump of baking powder or salt. So then we're going to take this wet ingredients, carefully pour it over our dry. Take a spatula, get all of that good stuff out of there. And then I'm going to fold it in. So you want to kind of go gently with this. You don't want to overmix this. The whole wheat flour can make a little bit more chewy cookie, that has a little bit more texture, shall we say. And so you don't want to overwork this. And so I'm going to gently just kind of bring everything to the middle from the outside. And it's starting to look really good, but you also don't want to leave a lot of dry ingredients on the bottom. You want to be thoroughly mixed. Hopefully you can see here that I've got a really nice, smooth mixture that came out perfectly. Then I'm going to take my chocolate chips and my cranberries, and I'm going to just pour those in. And here I'm just going to do a real light mixture. So I'm not going to stir it as long as I did the first time. Once you can see that you've got cranberries and chocolate chips kind of throughout the mixture, you're going to be good. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pan these up. I'm going to use a sheet pan that's lined with parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, you can go ahead and just use a greased cookie sheet, but try to use an oil like canola oil or something. Try not to use butter. We've got our cookie sheet here. I'm going to rest my spatula on the side. So take a full scoop, and I'm just going to portion my cookies. I will tell you that this cookie does not spread a lot in the oven, and that's partly because we're using olive oil and not butter, and it just has a different melting point, and it does affect how the cookie bakes. But I did want to add that with this cookie, I don't really want to leave this big round ball because it's going to take a long time to bake, and the center is not going to probably be done before the outside edges are. So what I'm going to do is take my fingers, or you can even use a bowl, the bottom of a glass or bowl, and just kind of flatten the cookie. And it helps if you just wet your hand a little bit. Then you're not going to get that stickiness. And you want about a ½ inch thick. Looking good there. Those look great, right? So we're going to bake those in a 350-degree oven, and we're going to go about 7 minutes. So when you're baking these kind of cookies, it's best to stay by the oven, check them at about 6 minutes, and you want to do just like a spring test. So touch the top of the cookie. If it feels really wet still inside, or it gives a lot, then it's probably not done. So check it again in another minute, or give it 2 minutes. The cookie will spring back a little bit. I also, in the classes that we teach, I say to use a kitchen thermometer. If it's 200 degrees, it's done. This cookie, because it has the whole wheat flour and the chocolate chips, it's not going to be easy to see whether that bottom is kind of a golden brown. So that's just a way of making sure that the cookie is done. And you don't want to eat raw cookie dough. And put them on a little plate. And yeah, if you're new to cooking, don't worry. You don't need to be a professional chef to make great meals. Start simple, follow the steps, and remember, mistakes are part of your learning. Every time that you cook, you're building confidence in your culinary skills and abilities. The kitchen doesn't have to be intimidating. It can be a place of creativity, fun, joy, and nourishment. Have fun with your cooking, with your family, get together and cook a great meal. Thank you.